Hello all, welcome to the first video of How to Tips series brought to you by Quantum Tech Crew. How to Tips series consists of series of very small videos which are intended to introduce new features which are available in the various data platform related tools. In this edition of How to Tips, let's see how we can declare and create an external table for accessing from within Synapse Analytics instance. External table was one of the latest features which got introduced in SQL Server, Azure SQL Server and Synapse Analytics. Through external tables, we are able to access data which resides in external data sources like files, other type of databases, Spark platforms as a table within our SQL pool instance which we create inside Synapse Analytics. In this simple demo of an external table, let's see how we can declare an external table inside a serverless SQL pool which is created inside a Azure Synapse Analytics instance, and through that we can access the data from a CSV file which is residing inside a Azure Blob Storage. For the sake of this demo, we will be looking into an Excel sheet which has some travel feedback related data. So as you see from the screen, it includes some data which is related to some trip feedbacks which is given by the travelers. For the sake of this demo, this particular file is uploaded to a storage account created inside an Azure tenant, Azure Blob Storage. And we are going to attach this file as an external table within our Azure Synapse Analytics instance. For that purpose, we will first create a Azure Synapse Analytics instance and create a serverless SQL pool inside that. So Azure Synapse Analytics basically consists of two types of pools, SQL pools and Spark pools. So in this case, we'll be using a SQL pool because we'll be making use of SQL statements for creating the external table. So this is the Azure Synapse Analytics instance that we have set up for this purpose. And the process of creating an external table requires 4 main steps, of which 3 are mandatory steps and one of them is an optional step depending on how you have set the access for your blob storage. So in this case, if you go back to the blob storage, and if you see, we are actually setting the access policy as private. We have disabled anonymous access for this particular account. So for that reason, we would require accessing it using a credential when you are trying to access the files or the containers from within your storage account. So for this purpose, we would require first creating a credential within our database. So we'll start off by first creating a master key. This master key would be used for encrypting all of our credential related passwords and any sensitive data. So first step is to create the master key, so that you can create it using a create master key SQL statement. Because this is a SQL pool, we will be using all SQL related statements. Now when you execute this, the master key will get created. So now the master key is created. Now we will use this master key to create the credential. So now we will define a credential which will be used to access this particular file within our storage account. So when you create a scoped credential, you have to pass a secret and you need to create an identity. So the statement, if you see, it consists of 2 parts. One is the identity that is being used and also the secret. Because this is an Azure Synapse Analytics instance, it will require a shared access signature for accessing your files. And here in this case, the shared access, though it says shared access signature, what you need to pass is the access key. The access key, you can get it from within your source account. When you go to your Azure Blob source account, there is a place where it shows the access keys. You can go to that and go to the storage account container. Inside that you will have this access keys. So go to the storage account, click on this access keys, and it will have 2 keys, key 1 and key 2. You can use either one of them. So when you click on show keys, it will show you the key, and you can copy it from here and paste it against your secret, the secret that you pass through the SQL statements. So once you create, you pass this secret and use that identity as shared access signature, the credential will get created. Now when you execute this, the scoped credential will be ready for you. This is the credential you will use for creating the data source. Now comes the main three parts of creating a table. First, you need to create a data source, external data source, to link to your container within your storage account. Second, you need to define a format for the file, because it is, in this case it's a CSV file, so it's a delimited file. You have to specify a format, like what is the field terminator, similar kind of things, like where you can expect your data in case there is one or two rows to be skipped as header. Those kind of settings can be done inside your format. And finally you will define your table. So let's start off now creating the data source. So while creating the data source, you need to define the type. By default, the type will be Hadoop. That is the mandatory type value that you need to pass for accessing the delimited file. Second would be the location. So location contains the URL of the file within your storage account. So in this case, if you see, the location points to the folder within which the file resides. So the file, if you see, it is inside a container called source files. So the storage account is called my source files. Inside that there is a container called source files. Inside that is our actual file. So when you pass the URL, the format is like, this is the protocol that is used, WASBS, followed by the name of your folder within your account. So that is the SRC files, that is the name of your container or the folder inside which the file is present, and at your storage account. This is your storage account, my source files dot blob dot. So that is your name of your storage account, my source files. So if you take the URL for this, it will be this last part. So container at your account, and then when you pass the credential, you have to pass the credential that you created in the last step, Azure credential. So this is required only because you are not given anonymous access. You have not enabled anonymous access for your storage account. So now when you create this using this credential, the data source will get created. Now the data source got created. You can see that by going inside the external resources and external data sources, and this new data source will be now shown, Azure data source. Now let's go ahead and create the format file for accessing the data from our file. So in this case, because our file is a delimited file, we will be using the format type as delimited text. And also there will be a couple of format options that will be used. The first option that will be used is the field terminator. Since here it is a CSV file, we will be using the field terminator as comma, and the first row will be set to 2 because it has one header rows. So now we can create the external file. Once you click on that, the external file format will be created. Now that the format is created, now we can go ahead and finally create the external table itself. So for that, we will be making use of create external table statement. So the statement consists of two parts. The first part will contain the definition of the table. So in this case, the table consists of two columns, a trip ID column and the feedback column. If you remember the data, it contains two columns. So we'll use the first part of the statement where we'll use create external table, the columns and their data types. And the second part is the important part where they will specify what is the location, what is the data source to be used, and the file format. So we will have with location equal to the name of the CSV file, then the data source, which is the data source which points to the Azure location, and finally the file format, which will indicate the format that we have specified previously. And make sure that when you are creating this for location, it should be pointing to the location of the file within your blob. In this case, because the file is in the root, you can directly specify the file name itself. In case it was inside a nested folder, you need to give the UNC path in /netted and the folder name / your file name. So that's the format in which you need to specify the location. Once everything is specified, now we can go ahead and execute the statement, and then the actual external file will get created. Once the table gets created, you can then fire a select from your table to ensure that it is able to pull the data from your actual file. So select star from the table name. When you try to execute it, you will get the data as it is from your file, which will have the trip ID and feedback. And once now the data is available from the external table, then you can use it in any one of your SQL statements. For example, If you want, you can even add a join statement to an existing table within your database and write a SQL statement. So let's use a SQL statement like, say, select from travel feedback join travel data. So travel data is a native table. If you go to the database and see, travel data is a native database, which is a native table available within your database. So you can go and expand the tables and see that. So you can do a join between the travel data and the travel feedback. So travel data is a table, travel feedback is a file. So you are able to do a simple SQL join between a table and a file, which is defined as an external source, thanks to the body base platform which the Synapse Analytics uses on the background. Each of this can be used like an independent table, whereas on the background it points to different objects. One is a file system object, another one is a native table object. So hope this quick demo helped you to understand how you can attach a file as an external source within your analytics instance, and how you can use it just like a simple table in case of a SQL join statement. Meet you all with another similar useful tips in future. Thanks for your time.